So experts are now saying that this is the most important bill that has ever passed. And yes, this includes early bills during the pandemic. This includes the Inflation Reduction Act and so many more. But this bill that just passed last night through the House of Representatives, this is the Fiscal Responsibility Act. This passed with a vote of 314 to 117. Now, the majority of the House voted in favor of this bill. However, it wasn't because they were all completely satisfied with this, especially with what was being included. In fact, it was the exact opposite. Many progressives came out after the vote last night and said that due to the possibility of a default, it was their obligation to pass this bill, not revolt, get it passed no matter what. They said, whatever bill was in front of us, we must pass it. And so they did. But what makes this one of the most important bills that we are ever going to pass? Well, simply because it prevented a default. This means people on Social Security will continue to get their benefits. People that are collecting SNAP will continue to receive their benefits. If you are living in affordable housing, guess what? You can continue to live in affordable housing. These are things that might not have happened if we defaulted on our debts. So again, it's a massive bill. But I want to address what's going on now, because now that the bill has passed through the House of Representatives with a vote of 314 to 117, it is now up to the Senate to get this exact same bill passed before Monday. Here's the reason why they have to get this bill done. Number one, if it's not passed by the Senate and signed by President Biden by Monday, we would default on our debts. The Senate has to pass the exact same bill, because if there is one little change, it goes back to the House of Representatives and they have to vote on this again, which would mean we could default on our debts by just one day. So it's up to the Senate to pass the exact same bill. Now, I want to explain what is going to happen in the Senate. But first, let me put your mind at ease, because right now I know a lot of people are wondering, is this bill actually going to pass through the Senate? My expectation is yes. When the House of Representatives is tight and it's very close, let's say it passes with 219 yes votes, if that's the case, then in the Senate you will likely see it would be very tight as well. The issue, though, and the reason why I'm not too worried here, is because we passed this bill with a vote of 314 to 117. A huge, huge margin. So I think we're fine. But here's what we are hearing already. Senators are already saying that they will not use the normal tools from the Senate toolbox in order to hold up legislation. That's good news. They also say they are going to provide some amendments, but they already know they will not pass. But it's their obligation to provide some of these amendments for their constituents. Again, some of this is just theater. They're just trying to put on a show for their constituents to see that, yes, they tried, but it didn't work. So because of this, it's just a matter of days before the Senate passes the Fiscal Responsibility Act and raises the debt ceiling, which would prevent a default. Now, let's get to what we are already expecting from the Senate. First off, one of the big things, and we've heard this from Senator Rand Paul before, he wants to vote on his debt ceiling plan. It's an alternative to what we are currently voting on, but it would actually hike the debt limit for a shorter period of time. So it wouldn't be as long, it would be much shorter. It would also include budget cuts in the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars. However, Senator Rand Paul has already told reporters that he understands that yes, he can put this amendment out there, but it is going to fail. All he wants is a vote on it. That's it. Let's just vote on it. But you probably think, well, why would a senator waste his time, waste the Senate's time just to hold a vote when he knows the amendment isn't going to pass? Well, this is, again, that political theater. that what they are trying to do is getting certain lawmakers to vote in favor or in opposition of a certain bill, so that when it comes time for their campaigning, they can be like, well, you voted no for this. You voted yes for this here. Why aren't you voting for it now? That's what we're going to get. We also know Senator Mike Lee out of Utah. He's expected to roll out a bunch of different possible amendments. And a lot of them I think are going to come out today. But he's also indicated that he doesn't expect to vote on all of them. But he does expect to vote on something. We also, Senator Mike Braun, Republican, said he told The Hill that he plans to offer an amendment that would put penalties in place if Congress doesn't pass appropriations on time. Again, we can see a vote on this. However, it's probably not going to go anywhere. But here's where things get very tricky. Senator Lindsay Graham, he's calling for multiple amendments. One of these amendments that he is going to call for would actually increase military spending to get the U.S. back to inflation levels. Okay? So that's one of the amendments. Get the U.S. spending for military spending back to inflation levels. The issue is that one could pass, but I'll get to that in just a second. The other one, and this is another one that's very simple. He says to include a statement of support for Ukraine, given that the bill does not include any money for the war-torn nation. So it's not, hey, let's give Ukraine an additional $100 billion. No, it's, hey, let's include a statement of support for Ukraine. Now, this is where things get very tricky. Senate leaders have said that they agree that multiple amendments will be voted on. And they're going to be voted on in order to get that senator to agree to vote in support of this bill, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which is ultimately going to raise the debt ceiling. But what we are hearing is that Senate leaders are saying that they will not put Senator Lindsey Graham's amendments up for a vote. The simple reason is because they could easily pass. And if those amendments pass, even if it's something as simple as a statement of support for Ukraine, this bill, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, that is going to now be voted on in the Senate, would have to go back to the House of Representatives. They will have to do another vote, pass it again without any changes, and then that would pass, and then it would get sent to President Biden's desk. The issue is we do not have that kind of time. We have to get this done before Monday. That's where this turns into a major issue, is are we going to see this actually pass? My expectation is yes, we're going to see this pass because we're already being told Senator Lindsey Graham's amendments will not be voted on simply because they have the chance of passing. That's it. So, what does this mean moving forward? Well, according to Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Minority Leader Mitch McConnell out of the Senate, they plan on having a vote as early as today. But in order for this to actually happen, there needs to be an agreement from all 100 senators that they can hold the vote as early as today. If one senator decides no, they don't agree, then the whole thing would delay the entire procedure. Okay? Just one senator can hold things up. Now, do I think this bill is going to pass before Monday? Yes. Do I think it's going to pass today? Probably not. It will likely be held on to for a little bit longer. And the reason I say this is because these senators don't just want to come out and vote. They want to, submit an amendment. They want to do this stuff. They want to be heard. And so because of that, that's probably going to happen first. It will likely take a day or two, and then we will have a vote. The vote will either be tomorrow on Friday, or it could possibly be Saturday or Sunday. The expectation, though, is it will be passed in the Senate. Nothing's going to change. It will go to President Biden's desk. He's going to sign it, and then we'll be good to go. Because one thing that we don't want is we don't want the markets to open on Monday and everything sells off because of a potential default, or we are so close. Right? We're just knocking on the door. Now, once the vote does take place, we are being told that 10 to 20 Republicans will support this bill. We also know that at least 5 Democrats have already said publicly that they oppose the bill and they will be a no. But the vote is likely going to be close to that 60 vote minimum. But all congressional leaders anticipate it will get passed. So that's the good news. But this is why some are calling this bill the most important bill ever. Okay? Because of what it saves. Just think about what would have happened if we were defaulted on our debts. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has already stated that she cannot, and the Treasury cannot dictate who gets paid first. Which agencies are going to get the money. It all depends on the X date. So, in order to keep checks coming to Social Security recipients, they are not delayed, okay? In order to do that, we have to pass this bill. To prevent checks from being delayed for SNAP beneficiaries, for food assistance, food stamps, well, we have to pass this bill. This bill also allows affordable housing to continue. What if we didn't have the ability to provide any assistance to lower income households for their family and for their housing? Well, we would lose affordable housing. Why would anybody want that, right? They also say there would have been massive changes to Medicaid. Veterans would not get their payment if we default on our debts. Veterans need their payments. They also need their to be looked after, right? Whether it's their mental health, their physical health, they have to be looked after. This costs money. And if it's money that we didn't have, we couldn't borrow, well, then everybody's screwed. And also lower income households that rely on the U.S. government to survive. You'll continue to get your assistance on time. That's why this is such an important bill. And this is why some are saying this is one of the most important bills ever. Because if we didn't have this stuff, we're already seeing massive amounts of inflation. We're already seeing many people are food insecure. They've fallen back into poverty. So because of these things, we need this bill just to move forward. So, good news is, this bill has already passed through the House of Representatives with a vote of 314 to 117. The expectation is it will pass through the Senate once it gets there for a vote. It is there. However, they might not vote today. Well, chances are it will be tomorrow or possibly Saturday. But as soon as I get more information as to what is going on here, I promise I will fill you in on all the latest news and updates. Again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing. I'll see you guys on the next one.